this Saturday, and it kicks off at 5 o'clock. The theme of the parade this year is Roaring 20. There's a flyer coming around that you can take if you'd like. The parade will follow the same route as it has in the past, starting at the college and ending up at Lafayette Street. We will be closing State Street from Veterans Park to Broadway at 3 o'clock this year, and the rest of the parade, or the rest of the route from Broadway to College at 4 o'clock. The reason for the change is the kids that are involved with downtown right in front of Proctors. Last year I was on the review stand in that area, and there's an awful lot of kids running across the street, and there's still traffic coming through there, so we decided to shut it down at 3 o'clock this year to avoid any problems. There'll be a tree lighting at 5 o'clock by the mayor right in front of Johnny's. Then we have to hustle Gary down to Schenectady Community College to walk it back in the parade. The city is going to have a car and a float in the parade. The car is a Zimmer, which is an updated version of a 1920 Duesenberg. It's kind of neat looking. I think you'll like it. The float is a representation of the aging process of Erie Boulevard from the time when they had water, which was before the Roaring 20s, up to present. So we're going to have a pictorial show up on our float. With some other things, but it's basically that. The judges are Kathy Sheehan and David Siders, and there's the prizes that are on that sheet that you've seen. The Grand Marshal is Joe Dalton and Ed Louie. I understand from the chamber, I think Joe Dalton was one of the people that was involved with the original parade when they started, so it's kind of a neat thing to bring them back. And 890 is going to be closed. The Western Gateway Bridge is going to be closed during the parade, and then we'll open it shortly thereafter. Just going to remind you of what's going on. Any questions?
What's the weather?
Have 2 judges? You named 2.
Pardon me?
You named 2 judges. There's only 2.
2 judges. That's all they got for the prizes. It's chambers running.
Yeah, I know in years past they had 4 or 5.
And this was an early indication that I got. There maybe more.
Okay.
I was going to ask about the weather.
The weather's going to be ideal. I checked, called ahead.
It'll be snowing and sleepy.
47 degrees chance of rain.
Yeah. Or possible snow. I heard. Anyway.
Give it a holiday.
Right, you got it. All right. Go to finance.
Call to our finance committee. First item up, bar appointment, reappointment, Ms. King.
Yes, William Sanderson's term was up, and he has asked to be reappointed, and my understanding is he's done a good job, so I'm recommending that we reappoint him.
Okay. Any questions, comments on the appointment for the bar? Anyone else have thoughts on who they?
Okay, so I'll move it.
Moved. And
You.
second, I'll second it. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. Next, 2013 budget reappropriation. Ms. DeGenova.
Before you should have a legislative request for a budget reappropriation within the 2013 budget, and this is to address vehicle repair costs which have exceeded the amount that was budgeted specifically in the police department and the Bureau of Services. It appears our Commissioner Olson might be running a little late, but I can tell you that what we're asking to do here is to move funds from the unfunded deficit that was set aside into the budget to support known expenses as well as a few expenses that are underway but not totally completed yet. Repairs, I should say, not expenses.
Are there any questions?
Probably you could request some documentation on that. The documentation actually hundreds, if not thousands, of pages. And it's all right, I'll just make available a Tom Capoli at some time of your convenience. Go to the Bureau of Service. You can look at the files, how it's indexed, supporting documentation that's there.
Yeah, I talked to Carl Olson about it, and he said, to go down, it's in a format that's like conducive to sending via email. And I was really just looking for, is there a fleet person kind of doing enough analysis on it to see, are we doing multiple repairs to a vehicle that is kind of not something we would expect? I mean, are we rebuilding the engine twice in 1 year, or is it focused on certain types of repairs, or kind of looking at this to see why we would go over budget? Because understand that sometimes an engine might look like in a car, but an engine rebuild might be $3 or $4 grand, and we're talking about $250,000. So it's not just 1 or 2 extra mishaps; it's a lot of extra mishaps. And
so it's the age of the fleet. Again, council's prerogative, but delaying the purchase of some of the police vehicles and other vehicles drives that maintenance cost up.
Right, no, understood. It's just, that's a lot of repairs. $250,000 is a lot of repairs, so I just want to make sure we understand where those are going from a data perspective.
So, for you, the question is, so when you go to review, you're going to look at what cars are being repaired? I'm not sure. I'm
going to see what format it's in. If it's just a stack of invoices this high, you really can't do the analysis to say how much per car or anything like that. So I'm going to see what format we have the data in.
You can break it down by vehicle.
Okay.
That is computerized, but again, your requests would indicate some of the material that is not easily transmitted in electronic format.
Yeah, so we'll see what reports we can get, and we're welcome to come, because I think the more heads you have on something, more things you'll figure out. But I mean,
I'd like to go.
All right, I'll let you know. Probably later this week. At some point, we'll come out for a while and check it out. So if you want, I'll send an email out to everybody, and time and date, and we'll have a party.
Okay.
All right, but I'll move it pending your review.
Sure.
Okay.
Any other questions, or? Okay, I'll second it. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
The third item up, accepting the bid for general property liability insurance for the City of Schenectady, Mr. Ferrari.
Hi, how's everybody tonight, all right?
All right.
What we have in front of you is a request to accept the bid for general property liability insurance for the City of Schenectady. The Finance Department with Certified Insurance Counselor Pat DeCesar put together specifications and used those specifications and developed a request for proposal for insurance brokers and agencies to bid on. Five agencies and brokers were invited. 4 had reviewed and requested RFP. 2 were responded to the RFP. The bids were opened October 4th, and then a comparative analysis of the bids were done by Pat DeCesar and the Finance Department. Cool Insurance Agency, who is our insurance agent right now, came in as the lowest bidder with a combination of Great American Insurance Company and Continental Casualty Insurance Company. The bids, some of the specifications that came in that Cool was able to provide us was lower deductibility for, as you can see, for the law enforcement liability was reduced from $100,000 per incident to $75,000. Automobile physical damage from $10,000 to $2,500 per incident, but there was a rise in the deductible, and that was the third-party automobile liability from $25,000 to $50,000 per incident. The bid...
Okay, I just want to add.
Yeah.
So this is the spec that we requested to move it from 25 to 50?
No, we actually requested to lower it, but the insurance companies... what they did. This is the value that they gave to us.
So they came back and, all right, so when we asked for a policy, we put a specification together,
Right.
do we say what we want our deductibles and what we want
We request what we'd like to be, and we try to stay within that framework. And as you can see, they had lowered some Some had stayed the same, but some had increased. And that was the only one that had increased.
All right. And so then they also come up with the annual fee, or the cost.
Right.
Okay.
Now you got to remember the annual fee will fluctuate with the deletion and addition of equipment and other properties that the insurance that the city is going to purchase throughout the year. So we will recommend that we accept this bid.
Any questions?
Yeah, I was, did they give a particular reason for raising the increase, that particular one? Did they give you a reason?
Well, as in all insurance
rate that we have here.
all insurance companies, it's all based on our claims. And the claims, even though through the mayor's, we were having, with the mayor has set up a quarterly meetings, safety meetings with the insurance companies, which has reduced our claims. But the claims that we had in the previous years takes a few years before they translate into savings.
So this is based on last year's experience, or how many years of experience?
From prior experience, from 2-3 years ago. It's always based on statistics. Even though we are reducing our experiences, you're still liable for the problems you had in the past. Just like your personal insurance, it stays on for so many years.
So, Cool Agency prepared the specification.
No, we prepared the specifications.
So what did Cool do?
Well, what they did is they, through their insurance companies, they found companies that were able to insure us within the frame of the framework.
Well, they're a consultant. We heard there was a
Pat DeCesar.
Pat DeCesar was a consultant.
Consultant helps us prepare that.
They helped prepare the specification and would help review the analysis.
Right. So Pat DeCesar is a consultant. From here it looks, maybe I'm reading it wrong. He works for Cool Insurance.
No. He works for us.
He doesn't.
He's a certified insurance consultant that worked for the City of Schenectady.
As well as by the city's consultant, Pat DeCesar, Cool Insurance Agency.
Period.
At the Caesar.
Period.
Period? Okay.
Next sentence.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, no.
Okay. All
I
right.
had to read it a couple times too far.
All right. Do we have the specification that we submitted? Because I guess I'm just concerned that insurance companies are in the business of selling insurance, and they'll insure high risk, they'll insure low risk, right? And so you go out and you're priced accordingly, right?
Absolutely.
If we were all skydivers, they'd insure us, it would just cost a lot of money. So the fact that we sent it out to 5, only 4 bothered to look into it, and only 2 actually put in a bid.
That tells us how hard our insurance is for us.
I would venture to say that they would just provide a high bid and not be interested.
Well,
that's
but you
what I'm
have to realize that these agencies have to get underwriters to underwrite the insurance, and sometimes they can't get the underwriters to insure us because of our
Did we
experience.
query the 3 that didn't bid and ask them specifically in written format why they didn't participate?
Pat has spoken to them.
I'd like to know. I think that we need to understand why only 2 people participated.
Like I said, 4 had received the request, and only 2 received the bids.
Okay. When is this?
Starts at January 1st.
Okay. Do we have another cycle? We have another cycle. We could wait it out and maybe put it out for 1 cycle.
Geez, I don't know if we can, because
Well, the only, from an elapsed time perspective, if you just count the weeks, that is technically correct. But what we do have here is we have a broker that has lined up underwriters, and we're losing some companies that we used to be insured by. So there is a transition period that, from an administrative standpoint, for whoever is selected to go out there and get everybody on board, get all the documentation and get all the stuff together. We wouldn't want to jam them too much at the end of the year. So for City Council to make a decision in mid-December would be a bit problematic from the perspective of getting the underwriting team together.
It would also be inappropriate. You can't do anything now that may change any of the company's bids and then act upon the change. That would be absolutely...
Without going back.
Thank you.
Yeah, you cannot, like, let's say you do some research as to why XYZ company didn't respond. That may be very well and good for next year. Okay, maybe we should change our specs to be this, and we may get more companies responding. What you could not...
We couldn't send this out for rebid.
No, number one, that would take too long, but I think you would be rebid. That could be, I would have to check a rebid, but if you go to one of these companies and then one says, oh, well, I misunderstood what your specs were, here's my bid.
No, clearly I understand that. That's for everything we bid.
Right.
My concern is why aren't people participating? And so, I think our consultant, for him not to even say, hey, here's why only 2 people participated, what are we paying him for? He should be coming back to us saying, hey, this is why it didn't work out so well.
Well, actually, he felt that it worked out well because of the bid. The bid did come out, lower, and it's due to the competitive bidding process.
It came out, so what was it lasted? Our deductible went from 25,000 to 50,000.
And that's one of the reasons why.
25,000, that's not just
that's
property
correct.
damage.
It's due to the, it's all due to the claims that the city's.
The automobile deductible, liability deductible. So, based on just the accidents we had last year, that's a good chunk of change coming out of our pocket. I don't even know if we budgeted for that change. Have we budgeted for that change in the liability deductible?
Well, I think what we can say is this bid that you're looking at, plus you have to take into account our flood insurance premium, is under what we've got in our budget for 2014. Recognizing, however, that this proposed automotive liability deductible is going to increase, that delta, the unassigned budget, however you'd like to characterize it, it would be something that we would keep in case we do have claims and we need settlement money. So, yes, your one of the deductibles has increased, but our premium has actually turned out to be better than we had anticipated initially.
What was our premium last year? So this is 262 or 762. Last year it was
Last year it was 825
825. And how much do we have budgeted?
for 2014. 906.
And again, we also have to pay for our flood insurance out of that.
Yes.
Oh, okay. So
Insurance not included.
2012, so that 962 is just for this policy, not the flood insurance.
762.
760, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
760.
Exactly.
And the flood insurance is approximately $20,000.
I'm sorry?
20,000.
20,000. So
That's probably going to go up.
83.
Right. Yeah, we don't know what that is yet.
So 782 is our new price compared to 825 was the actual of those two combined? Or that was 825 was this one last year?
I combined, I think it's 850 combined.
All right. And we budgeted 906.
Yeah.
All right.
I know that there's no way of predicting this, but am I correct that the lion's share of claims that come before us are based on automobile collision claims?
No,
I
I think
prefer
they're
law.
not collision, they're liability claims.
They're liability,
Well, we're paying
they're
the
not-
other person that we had.
Okay.
I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, that's the way I understand it.
You've got liability
Yes.
claims, you slip and fall like the one.
Yeah.
Well, this is automobile.
This is
Oh,
automobile.
yeah.
The automobiles, when we hit another vehicle, we're paying to repair that vehicle.
Right.
Right.
Right. And so
So collision is within the city?
the deductible is 50,000. So unless we wipe out several houses, I mean, you're going to hit another car, right? I mean, you really have a serious accident to cause. I mean, if it's just a fender bender like what we're having.
Collisions for our vehicles.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
We
our
get vehicles
yeah,
within the city.
To pay for our repairs.
Gotcha.
That's why I have a lower premium because of the higher deductible.
Right.
And you gotta remember, it's all about the claims,
So collisions went from 10 to 2,500. And then liability deductible went from 25 1,000 to 50,000.
Do we have a choice in that?
No.
We don't.
No.
That's all they'll insure for with that kind of structure.
Yeah.
So the two people that bid, they both bid to raise the deductible on one and lower it on the other?
No, actually, the other bid, with the deductibles were higher.
Okay, so they each, so we're evaluating different price and then different deductibles.
Yeah, different coverage, yeah.
Okay.
And how about the overall premium on the other one? I'm sure you...
The overall premium was $790.
So you had a higher premium and deductibles that were higher deductibles?
Yes. And plus, there were some specifications that they didn't, the other company could not provide, so.
Oh, so they couldn't even meet all of our requirements?
Right.
I'd like to see this bid specification that our consultant...
Okay, right here for you.
Excellent. That's the whole book right there?
Yep.
Happy reading.
All right.
Okay.
Careful, Rob.
Is that my copy?
Does it look very well for us?
Yes, I'll give it to you.
Excellent.
All right, but in the interim, I am prepared to move this because I think...
Well, one more question I have, though. I mean, if the council, if we were split, we didn't like this, and we didn't vote for it, what would happen? Do we not have insurance?
Yes, I just want to remind you that our current underwriter, Trident Insurance, is no longer participating. They had, they're going to drop us as of the first of the year.
December 31st.
Yep.
So that's the scenario that we could fly blind.
There's no extension or any way to extend on this?
No, that's a company that's putting their balance sheet on the mark for us, so they
You don't generally get 30 days grace with insurance when it lapses, though?
there may be a time frame, but I don't know.
I don't think so. I don't think with this.
No.
John, are you aware?
I know there is for individuals, but I don't think
first for us. No.
So note for our consultant next time is at the end of this, we would like an extension so that when we come to this time of next year and we say, hey, we want to bid it and we don't like the outcome, we want to rebid it, I'd like something built in that says we've got a period of extension that we can move on. Because right now, why would you even bother? Let's close our eyes and vote on it because we have two choices: vote yes or do something stupid like not have insurance. So,
But the other reality is Cool is currently our insurer.
Right.
So we've had, I assume, a good experience with them.
Absolutely.
So it's not like you're,
sure, but how do we know, right? We just don't know any else. We think 762 is good. We don't know what the specification. Just to say, gee, they've answered our call when we got all this.
We did go out to bid it, and
It just seems crazy.
And I
There are
think,
only two insurance companies in the entire country.
and we had some big company, Marshall and Sterling.
My
Okay.
assumption would be, because if you look at business, right, you want to be as competitive as possible because you want to win the bid.
Right.
When you're going in, you want to win the bid. You don't want to gouge the person and take a chance on not getting it. You want to play it close. You want to put the best option forward with the best price that you think you can do as an insurance company. My assumption, it's totally my assumption with my experience, is that two of the people didn't bid because they didn't feel like they could be competitive with that book of information. It would be one thing if we just kind of threw it out there and went, send us your bid. But obviously, that's a well thought out, inclusive document.
Right.
So my assumption would be that they felt like they couldn't be competitive. And with the amount of claims we see rolling across our table.
Right. We usually know what all the municipalities, what is Albany, what is Troy, what is Niskuna,
Which I think it's apples to oranges, because if they're having different kinds of accidents and different kinds of situations than we are,
I'm sure they're all,
I'm
sure there's somebody else out there that's comparable, I would think. We're unique, but, Okay. Anyone else have questions on insurance?
What's worrisome to me mostly on this, more than other people bidding, is that high deductible. We could get really buried with that. How many bodily injury claims do we have pending, John? Do you know just off the top of your head?
From auto accidents?
Because all these accidents, people could be claiming personal injury.
Yeah.
We're paying off the vehicle damage, but we're not paying off the personal injury yet.
Thankfully, we don't have that many. I would have to go back and take a look at our list, find out how many.
Because that's certainly, cars, you're paying off $5,000, $10,000, $15,000. When you get talking about bodily injuries, it could be $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 per. We really have to get our act together and as far as our driving records in this city, because this is costing the taxpayers a ton of money.
I assume, again, that liability insurance is different than health insurance. Like when health insurance comes to you, they say, okay, you can have a $1,000 deductible plan and it's going to cost you $400 a month, or you can have a $5,000 deductible plan and it costs you $200 a month. With liability insurance like this, do we have an option to pay a higher price? I mean, can we get a $25,000 deductible and see what the price is?
No, because...
Or do they just say, basically, you're too high a risk, we're not going to insure you with this?
Your underwriters, that's what they would do. Our brokers, they want us to have a lower deductible.
Right.
But it's what the insurance company themselves, our underwriters, what they're willing to...
Right. I just want to make sure I understand it properly.
Anthony, sometimes with personal insurance, that's my point of reference, you can do certain things to lower your premiums, like if you take a safe driver course or are there any options that we can do? Not this particular one, but I mean, those are the kind of things we should probably be looking at to say, what can we do since we're, raising our deductibles and our premiums are pretty significant. Are there any things that are consultants
we're doing it. We're doing quarterly reviews of all the claims. We're going after individuals when they have accidents. The police are there. We're trying to get that message out that it's unacceptable. And I've got 600 employees, and so it's the nature of it where we will have some incidents that we would prefer not to, but they do occur. And you have to have some insurance.
But my question is there something specific that I know we're doing that. Is there something specific that the insurance company says that if you put these things in place, it could...
But again, that was based on the insurance company.
Right.
We worked with them, set up the quarterly meetings. They come in, we review each claim, make sure that things are in order, look for ways where you have an incident. Did we do anything that... or should we do anything in a preventative manner to make sure that it doesn't happen in the future? So we are doing those things, and we have seen the overall incident of events decrease and want to continue that.
And that's the last few years, as you've seen in the paper, we have had improvement in decrease of accidents and liabilities. If we can continue to do this for the next 2 years, you're going to see each year our premiums go lower.
Deductibles go higher.
And we hope not, and they'll go lower with them because we're a better risk,
Anything else?
Can we get some foam bumpers?
So I'm prepared to move it. And I think, like Mr. Polster said earlier, if we can get feedback from Mr. DeCesar about, why these other companies didn't bid, it would just help us for future and then, apply that for next year.
Is he somebody I can call with the paying per hour for me to talk to him?
Well, I'll give you his number.
All right. Yeah, please send email to me.
Yeah.
All right, I will reluctantly second it. All in favor?
Aye.
Oh, reluctantly aye. All right, thank you. Anything else to come before finance? Anything?
I move we adjourn.
I will second it. All in favor?
Aye. All right, I'm going to call to order City Development and Planning. First item is just a reminder that this Monday we will be starting the presentations by different people in the community to talk about, economic development and how their business or organization, has benefited from things in the city. So Philip Morris will be our first presenter on Monday. And it'll just be a 10-minute presentation right at the beginning of the meeting. And we'll be doing these probably about once a month.
You don't need me to do anything then?
No. Nope. No, this is just, I don't know, Chad, if you want to add anything to it, since you've been just kind of setting these up.
No, just what's there in the backup as far as the legislative request.
Okay. Item number 2, establishing zoning regulations for halfway houses. Mr. Polster.
Chad, did you get to send out to everybody yes. After the discussion held the last time, we made, actually, a couple cycles ago, you saw the proposed legislation, and then there were some changes that you wanted, and we have made a number of those changes. Some of them, like when we went over and talked to the chiefs, they did not want to be approving safety plans one way or the other because of potential liability doing and approving. It's just that it's going to be filed. There are yearly compliance requirements. For the ones that are in existence right now, they have to comply with 7, 8, 10, and 11 as you requested. I believe that everything was addressed except for those things which could not be addressed. So if you are okay with this, if you want Monday night.
Ms. Perazzo.
In number 6, I don't know if this is where this would be included or not, but we wanted it included that the council is also alerted to this. Not just, I mean, the city, I did ask for the city to be the one to send the letters and not the people organizing the halfway house, but we also specifically asked that the council was made aware at the same time.
I can add a sentence at the end of 6 that just for logistical considerations, notice thereof shall be given to the city clerk, because that way the clerk
And then we'll know to get it out to us.
can get it all done.
As long as it gets out to us. I mean, I just think it's an important thing for the city council to be aware of because we're the ones that are fielding questions and it's,
How about if I say all notifications required hereunder shall also be provided to city clerk? And then it'll be up to this.
Or could you say on to the city clerk for distribution to the city council?
Yeah, I can say that.
yeah, I would really like to have that included in there because I think it's just important that we're aware of. This could be a real hot button issue for neighborhoods, and I don't want to be caught unaware.
Mr. Jackson?
Back to on the first page here, where it says no more than 15 residents are permitted in a halfway house. And where do we come up with the 15 number? Is that particular to just what we've done, or is that the right number? Should it be a different number than that? How do we come up with 15?
It's been a while. I did the majority of the drafting. We looked at a number of ordinances from other municipalities, and it was somewhat of a balancing act between what would permit a halfway house to be economically feasible and what doesn't go overboard as far as the community is concerned. And it is, when you come right down to it, an arbitrary number. You could say 50, you could say 10, I don't remember specifically everything that I saw at the time that I drafted this, but I thought at the time 15 was reasonable. You want to change it? It's your prerogative.
My thought, and just, as we're talking about it here, taking a particular house, you have 15 residents plus several staff members. It's a lot of people to be, plunked in the middle of a neighborhood, living in one house, right?
What's the current, we have halfway houses now. What is the current capacity of those? They're all over the city.
They are. I don't know.
Ms. Perazzo?
I'm going to make another assumption. I'm full of assumptions tonight, but I would assume that the Department of Health has regulations as to how many people can be in each room, how many bathrooms per each person. That's something that the Department of Health or that oversight would handle correct? So if the house is big enough for 15 people plus staff, then it would allot that. But I mean, if the house has 3 bedrooms, it's not going to be 15 people plus staff, right? I mean, that would be a health concern, I would.
Yeah, but I'm just thinking,
Assume.
you know, there's a lot of ways to chop up a house to add more bedrooms, right? So,
Not necessarily. You still have all the zoning, planning, and so on, and this says no more than 15.
right.
So if you've got a 3-bedroom house, it might be 3 people, 1 staff person there, 24 hours.
But, I mean, you could add a bedroom to a house. You could turn a family room into a bedroom, and I don't know if zoning would necessarily stop that. Turn a 3-bedroom house into a 4-bedroom house
They
without
still
changing
need
the
to get-
outside.
They still need to get the special use permit, so they're going to have to be, they're going to have to come in and tell planning what they're going to be doing and how they're going to be doing it.
You just, again, you're talking traffic, you're talking visitors, you're talking people in and out, coming and going from that property in a neighborhood. I think there's a lot of traffic. Nowadays, our current standards is you got a family living in a house, or you have 2 families living in a 2-family house. You put 15 people in one house is, or 18 or 20
Here's
people
my
in one house.
concern.
Yeah.
You've got to allow enough people so that it becomes realistically possible. If you were to say there can be no more than 1 person, a court's going to say that that is arbitrary and capricious,
Right.
and a de facto prohibition against any of them.
Sure. So I think 1 is probably too low. I think 15 is probably too high. I mean,
Where the number is a judgment call. And I can't sit here and tell you that a court would pass on 3, 5, 9, I don't know what number there is, but that's why I say no more than 15. If you want to, I wouldn't go below 10.
Ms. Porterfield?
I'd like to know what the current capacity of the ones that we have. I mean, that's the place to start. Are they 15? Are they 10? They exist. We don't have to guess at what that number is.
I mean,
If you want to table this,
could
we
we
can see what we can find out.
could we word it in such that, I mean, obviously it depends. If it's a 3-bedroom house, then they want to squeeze 15 people, and they have a bigger problem, right? So if there's a 15-bedroom house, then it'll be appropriate. Could you word it no more than 1 resident per officially zoned bedroom? Right?
Resident per bedroom?
One resident per bedroom, right?
I think we're like drilling down a little bit
Yes.
far on that.
Well, I mean,
I do too.
is there a rule against double? I don't know, but I
Well,
just
see,
think
that's what-
if it was 15 people plus staff living next door to me, I'd probably have a problem with it.
Well, but again, I think we should look at what the current houses we have, where we have agencies who run them. We look at what's currently out there and how they're doing it and what the state regulations they are and all that. I don't think a lot of this has, and most of this doesn't have to be guesswork.
Are neighborhoods happy with what's currently happening out there?
Well,
I mean, this is our opportunity to change what's currently happening out there.
I think it depends on if it's disrupting the neighborhood. So,
I think people are, I'm hearing that some cases people don't like it and it is disrupting. So I think it's worthy to have a conversation to see, if a halfway house had fewer residents, would people be more comfortable with it? If it was less disrupting in a neighborhood.
So is there a suggestion that if there are 20 people, because it's okay now that we now lowered 15? What do you think?
What's a comfortable number for you?
I mean, again, for me, it depends on the size of the house. So if it was a 4-bedroom house, I'd say 4 people. If it was a 6-bedroom house, I'd say 6 people. I mean, I'd laugh, but
Yeah, but that's not, okay, then it's defeating the purpose of what it's there for, if it's only 6 people. So, apparently there's a lot more discussion that could be had about this. So.
is there a problem with having a 6? Is that? I mean, I don't understand the business, so maybe I'm missing something. But
And part of the business is having enough people in there, so, I mean, it makes it worthwhile, reasonable to have staff. I mean, they staff people according to the number of people in the house, so I think that,
well, adding staff just adds more traffic in the neighborhood, right? I mean, it's not for me, it's a matter of how many people are coming in and going, right? It's why we don't put, large stores, and, people don't want a big business next to their house either. It's zoned residential, you're zoned commercial, I guess. If it's in a neighborhood, I don't know if I'd want 18, 20 people, plus family and friends, and 30 people a day.
Ms. Brazen?
I don't know.
Am I correct that this would go through the process of like anything else, it would go before the planning board, it would go before the zoning board, right? I mean, I think we're trying to micromanage something that there is a plan in place for. So they go to the zoning board. If there's a problem with the zoning, the neighborhood comes out and they,
like a parking garage.
say that they have an issue. Look at Jack's place. You know what I mean?
Right,
People
like
really
a
have an
6-story
issue.
parking garage.
And people listen to that, right? And then it goes to the planning board or vice versa.
Yeah.
And then the Department of Health looks and says, okay, we deem that 2 people per bedroom and 1 bathroom meets our standards. I mean, we're not here to regulate halfway houses. We're here to make sure that our city and our residents are protected to that, so that if a halfway house comes in, they get listened to, they have ample notice that somebody's, and then they raise their voice, and then the boards in place, be it the zoning board, the planning board, and the council, or whatever the case may be,
For the planning commission, they don't have to go for a zoning.
do that. Well, if only if it's zoned differently.
Well, they're treated as pretty much single-family houses.
Right.
That's state legislation, which...
Right. So, I mean, and I feel like the planning commission has the history of handling these things. You know what I mean?
I hear your point, and to a point I agree with. I guess where I differ is, for example, the parking garage. There's a lot of people who are upset about a parking garage that snuck through, right? Or the planning board or whatever,
But it didn't. It's still
hanging up.
It's still in there.
If it happens, then it's a failure. If it doesn't happen, then it's a success, right? So there's still a controversy over that issue. And frankly, yeah, the state probably does have regulations, but I think it's our job to not just go, hey, whatever the state says is good enough for our residents is good enough for our residents. No, we're here because the state says you can put 50 people in there. I'm going to say, no, we can't. So if 15 is the number that as a group we think is a good number, then that's a good number. I'm thinking it should be less than that. And I'm not going to leave it up to the state to say, well, we don't care. If the house is big enough, we'll put 1 million people in there. I'm not comfortable with that.
So, and I'm looking at things like Draper School. What if somebody wanted to take a third of Draper School? 15 people would absolutely comfortably fit in that. There's ample parking, there's ample area around, and that's something the planning commission will look at, right? So we take a 3-bedroom house, and obviously that's not going to jive for anyone. You know what I mean? Because there are regulations in place to avoid that on several different levels. So, I mean, I don't care, but I think we're micromanaging this big time. I mean, I think that it's very important that on a case-by-case basis this is looked at, that the residents are alerted, that the council is alerted, that it's on everyone's radar, so that it can be a yay or nay situation with people's voices raised.
Yeah. I'm okay with micromanaging. I think in the past we've erred by not managing micro enough, right? And so if we've taken a loosey-goosey approach to things, then residents aren't happy because something went into their neighborhood that they weren't happy with. And so excuse me being a micromanager. I'd rather overmanage it than undermanage it. And so I would prefer to be a lower number and, start a discussion in terms of what that number is. I don't have a particular number that it has to be, but, using a logical approach, if it was 1 resident per bedroom, hey, there's something I throw out there. If someone comes back and says, no, you got to have, economically you can't do it unless you have 6 or more people, then okay, maybe the number is 6. But I don't know if there's any more logic behind 15 than there is the way I'm figuring out. So I know that I wouldn't want 15 people plus staff and visitors living next door to me. I think it's a lot. People petition, say they want it, then they can petition, say bring it in next door to in my neighborhood, and then I'm sure we can make an exception. But
if it was up to me, I'd keep the moratorium. So
I'm with you on that. I'll second it.
So, what's your pleasure, Ms. Porterfield?
Well, to me, I mean, we go back to what is currently, how many people live in halfway houses that we currently have? I think, I could be wrong, but I think it's probably more than 15, or at least 15.
Is that some information that we could try
I'll
and
see
get?
what I can find.
And we'll just hold this for 2 weeks, 2 more
That's
weeks?
fine.
Okay.
What
And
liability are we opening ourselves to by not moving on this and not moving on this and not moving on this and not moving on this? Any?
Yes.
There is no moratorium in effect as we speak.
Right.
I have no knowledge of anybody knocking at our door
Okay.
contemplating putting one in. Does that mean that somebody couldn't show up tomorrow? Absolutely not. But I don't know of anything going on.
Okay.
Do we need to extend the moratorium?
It's dead already.
Oh.
You'd have to put in-
We'd have to go through another public hearing, all that. And I just, Chad pointed out in May 13th, when we had the public hearing on this, Reverend Michael Holpin spoke, for the president of New Choices, that they were looking to convert the upper levels of their office building at 302 State Street to a group residence to accommodate 4 to 16 people. And Stuart Rosenblatt, also related to New Choices, was looking for some clarification.
Apparently he thinks he could swing it with 4. He said 4 to 16, so 4 seems like something that might work.
Focus on the property line.
All right, we're going to hold this for 2 weeks. Mr. Polster, if you can see if we can just get some information about some of the other places, and then we'll try and get this through. All right, DSAD budget. I think we didn't have anyone speak at the public hearing. Everybody seemed comfortable with the proposed budget at our prior committee meeting. So at this point, I'll entertain a motion to approve it.
So moved.
All right, second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, good. The 2012 Continuum of Care, Mr. Perga, this is something we have done, do regularly.
We do every year.
Yep.
It's a renewal, and for the last 8 years, CARES Incorporated has been applying to the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development on behalf of the City of Schenectady for Continuum of Care funding. And what that does, it provides services for the homeless, including counseling, street outreach, case management, and also transitional and permanent housing. The 2012 Continuum of Care application awarded approximately $3.1 million in support to the homeless programs. And there were 10 organizations in the City of Schenectady that received funding for 25 programs, and that included both WISE, SCAP, legal aid, SAFE, and municipal housing. So a lot of these nonprofits were funded through this application. As part of the Continuum of Care application, the City of Schenectady serves as the grantee for the Shelter Plus Care program, and this refers to the YMCA's 30-unit housing program. Through this Continuum of Care, we received $189,903. CARES is serving as the HUD lead agency for the completion of the Continuum of Care, and they're proposing a fee of $10,000 as funding to pay for the application. And this $10,000 was included in our 2013 consolidated plan, so this would be community development block grant money, federal money to pay for this. And we're recommending to pay CARES Incorporated $10,000 for the application, and also we're recommending to authorize the mayor and the city to accept the $189,903 on behalf of the Capital District YMCA for the 30-bed unit, the Shelter Plus Care renewal funding. And I should mention that these beds will be transferred to 845 Broadway, the 30 units of housing, upon completion by Gillespie of that facility. And at this point, I'd like to introduce Nancy Chiarella of CARES Incorporated, and she's here to answer any specific questions you might have.
All right, questions, Ms. Porterfield?
It said this is for 30 units of housing.
Yes.
The Y has a higher number than it...
Absolutely.
Okay.
They're going to have, I believe it's 185 units at the new facility, but through this Continuum of Care funding, we get 30 units.
Okay. And how much did we pay the same amount for last year's application?
I'm sorry?
How much did we pay for?
10.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's been consistent for a number of years.
And they haven't risen, the price has not gone up.
Other questions? All right, I'll entertain a motion to approve, you've actually approved two different things here then, right?
Yes.
The awarding the contract to CARES first. Okay, Ms. Porterfield, seconded by Ms. Brazo. All in favor? Aye. And then authorizing the mayor to accept the $189,903 from the YMCA.
I authorize.
Okay. Moved, second?
I'm sorry,
question?
is 2012 it says here?
It's always a year lag.
Okay.
Yeah, it's HUD.
Okay, second? All in favor? Aye. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for being here. Thank you. Okay, back to the alcohol waiver.
We're going to kick this around one more time and then we'll give it up. So the first thing is Central Park. The reason this came up was that in the 11th hour, they came to the council and said, I know, anyone except a not-for-profit cannot go into the park and have alcohol served. However, we'd like you to, kind of approve this anyway. So as a piecemeal basis, we've been going through and saying, okay, well, you can have your wedding there, but, somebody else calls and no, we don't serve alcohol in the park. So I would like to see some consistency as to nonprofits, as they stand now, can serve alcohol in the park, not self-serve, versus anyone else. If we don't want anyone else to serve alcohol in the park, I'm fine with that too, but then the line is drawn, and that's it. So either get some revenue out of it and say, all right, well, if you want to have a wedding in the park, here's what stipulations you have to live within. You can't serve alcohol, only beer, wine, and soda. Party has to be wrapped up by 11, whatever the case may be, and it's going to cost you $250 permit. Or we don't. But I just think that we are opening ourselves up when we're like, oh, well, yeah, I like you enough to, it can be construed as, yeah, I like you enough to let you serve alcohol in the park, but I don't like you enough to serve alcohol in the park. And I don't think that's good practice, So you have the information before you. What I would like to see is an option for, I don't want to say for-profit because that's not really the case, but for citizens to be able to use the pavilion and serve alcohol for a fee under regulations as needed, but I'm willing to find consensus with whatever everyone as a whole wants. I just think we should have a policy in place.
So apparently you're saying if someone wants to, if he applied, they could say yes, and then if I applied, they could say no. Is that what you're saying? Can happen or does happen?
Well, yeah, right now on the books, the only people that can serve alcohol in the pavilion are nonprofits, and they have to get a special permit to do so, right? But at least twice since I've been on the council, in the 11th hour, oh my God, you're going to ruin this person's day forever and ever because they want to have their wedding there. Can't you just let them serve alcohol? We've approved
I didn't know that.
other people to serve alcohol, which I think is bad practice.
Okay. I didn't know about that second part.
The wedding that we had?
I didn't get invited.
I remember.
Thank you, Mr. Polster.
Okay.
That's why this whole thing came about. It wasn't just a folly.
Yeah.
It was, I don't think we should be deciding things, especially when time is an issue. I think we should have a policy in place, stick to policy. That's black and white, no problem.
We sent around to everybody some proposed language.
Right. Yeah, because I was going to ask if this does
It's in the packet.
It's in the packet.
meet what you're looking
Does
for.
that satisfy your
It's fine by me. It's, some people, I know Carl wasn't sure. He thought other people should serve alcohol in the park. It is an issue, blah, blah, blah. So I'm bringing it to the table for a final discussion.
Okay, Mr. Erickson.
So, for the record, I guess my opinion, first of all, I agree with you in terms of consistency. The biggest problem we could have is we let some, the rule applies to only some people. So I agree with you 100% on the consistency. My opinion in private residence, me, you, the next guy wants to have a party at the pavilion, it's generally going to be less monitored, I'm thinking. So if I think hey, I was going to have a graduation party or I'm going to have an anniversary party, it's just going to be a bunch of people, we're going to be, drinking, having a good time, and you're close to a tiny tot land, I just see disaster, and it makes me nervous to have alcohol that close. I understand for certain events, if we have a big event in the park, if we have a not-for-profit wants to hold some type of event, it's generally catered or monitored by, the organizers, and they have insurance, and there's someone there watching to say, hey, you, don't get in your car, or, gee, that person said 7, let's cut them off, right, as opposed to a family wedding where everyone's just having a good time. So I think a not-for-profit or an entity like that, I think it's acceptable. But I think for private residences, it could be dangerous having, you go to weddings and people drink, and then you're going to drive your car around tiny tot land. I think is kind of dangerous. And frankly, I think in terms of weddings, we've got a lot of businesses, restaurants in the area that would be happy to host an event, or you can do it in your backyard, or something like that. I think there's other options.
Other discussion? I'm sorry, it's not my committee.
Ms. Porterfield?
My issue, not my committee.
And additionally, we received some feedback after this was on the agenda, then pulled from the agenda, from residents who live around the park. It had kind of the same concerns that you had, that we have just residents without it being regulated, just be able to come in and for some amount of money be able to drink in the park. So there was some residents' concern about, putting forth this legislation as well. So I think that we really should take that into consideration for the people who live in the neighborhood and feel like they would be impacted by this.
Any other consideration?
Ms. Riggi?
I agree with Mr. Brazel. We need to have some consistency. Personally, myself, I'd like to see, as it always has been, no alcohol in the park. That cuts it dry, and that's it. Because I played in enough weddings in my day, and they can turn into drunken brawls. I've seen it. I've seen it happen. It can happen. People have control, and all of a sudden the control is gone. Somebody starts something, and it goes off. So I don't have a problem with no alcohol in the park. That was the way the rule always was before, and I don't think it's a good idea. Parks aren't for drinking. There's enough illegal drinking that goes on in the park now, and that's what a lot of residents are concerned about. And how do you tell the person that's got a six-pack in his cooler, oh, they can drink over there in the pavilion, but you can't drink over here on the cricket field or on the softball field? So it's something that may be tough for us to police ourselves. That's the way I feel. I just want to see no alcohol in the park.
Well, as the legislation reads now, it says special permits allowing alcoholic beverages in the park may be issued to charitable and not-for-profit organizations as specified by Section 501c3 of the Internal Revenue Code and pursuant to the applicable rules and regulations of the New York State Liquor Authority, and upon evidence of adequate insurance and such other conditions as may be required to protect health, welfare, and safety of the public. So what I ascertain is we are not going to allow private citizens to serve alcohol in the park any longer, which I'm fine with. Don't come to us in the 11th hour with somebody who wants to have their wedding there, or somebody who wants to have their fundraiser there for, that are a non-501c3, that's fine. Do we want to take it the next level and reconsider not charitable and not-for-profit organizations to not be able to serve alcohol in the park? Because that's another change, because that's not how it reads now.
And I guess I would prefer not to go there. I mean, I used to be on the board of the Schenectady Day Nursery, and they always have their steak and lobster fest, and they just serve, beer and wine. And it's never been an issue, but I think a lot of people, they like to have a glass of wine with their lobster. And, so for me, I think, Carl, you pointed out too, that, organizations like that have a lot of staff people around, and, so there's more controls.
Usually catered, right? So you have somebody serving it who's keeping an eye on people. I think it does lower the risk. It's not ideal, but it lowers the risk to maybe an acceptable level where, people aren't going to go to a fundraiser steak and lobster fest and, pound down 15 beers and then start arguing with the groom.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Your profile.
So then I guess the next step is, do we add to the legislation as it stands a sentence that says, under no circumstances will any private citizen be permitted to serve alcohol in the park,
Well,
serve alcohol in the park.
You can also just delete that, or to anyone seeking to hold a private celebration.
Well, that is the new amended language,
okay.
so it doesn't really exist in
Okay.
the current language.
Okay.
Do we want to add a more definitive statement, or, I mean, does every single time that gets crossed, does that come to the council every time? Because I don't think, does it? So, then it's fine, we'll just,
I mean, do we get a lot of people that come and say, well, wait a minute, I was going to have my wedding at, this park, and I thought I could just bring in a beer truck, or...
at least twice since I've been on the council, we've asked to override that.
It seems shocking, I mean, that someone would just assume you could, but, I don't know. Right, or they wouldn't plan that part of their wedding until the day before, I guess.
I mean, I guess I would like the language added just so it's not even coming before the council.
Because
It's just cut and dry.
they're going to read this.
It says here only,
Yeah.
only to charitable and not-for-profit
Okay,
organizations.
then it should never come before as an issue.
We can just say no. And all the requests, come to Jeremy, and we can just make it clear that if anybody makes a request, he notifies them under no circumstances, unless you're a 501c3, can you get a waiver? And, even if you were to change that, the way you have been doing it, and I only remember 2 instances in 12 and 13, they came and asked for a waiver from you guys, and that would be the way, they could still do that even if you were to change the language. No, it doesn't, I don't think you need to change the language. It says only.
The practice has been to bring it before the council all the time for everything. And I know it references the 501(c), even though there's other not-for-profits, that there's a couple of different subsections.
Right.
It says
Actually
charitable,
might,
or not-for-profit.
But no, it says charitable and not-for-profit, and because some charitable organizations won't have their 501c3 status, but say that we are a charitable organization, so are we including both? You don't have to, you can be a charitable organization without having a 501c3.
Right, and should we require that? I mean,
That's my question.
Vince and I can go, hey, we're going to start a charitable organization for, whatever, and decide to have a bash, and we're a charitable organization hosting weddings. Right? I want a loophole. I want some ridiculous loophole. Someone's going to say, hey, I have a friend of mine who's going to charitably host a wedding.
I don't know, I think it's stood this way for a long time. I don't think we've had anyone come up with a diabolical plan yet.
Always thinking. Always thinking. Okay, yeah, so I think as long as we kind of agree on the essence here.
Excellent, so we're keeping it the way it is.
Okay.
I just one question. Where the language has been struck, where at the discretion of the mayor that was taken out, is that part of your, part of the change where they struck the language? It's in B.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, at the discretion, that would have been part of the change. So if you take no action, it says special permits allowing alcoholic beverages in the parks may only be issued at the discretion of the mayor and only to charitable and not-for-profit.
the practice has been bring it to the city council.
So are you saying you don't want that authority? Or do you want to...
It predates my being this office.
No, I get that.
So I intend to continue that practice so that the discretion is there. And focus again has been primarily discussion on Central Park, the Nuevo Pavilion in Jerry Burrell Park. We put the new one up in Steinmetz. All the activity that's going on in Woodlawn Park, I can see where there may be other requests that may happen in some of the neighborhood parks. That again, still think the best way is to do the application, comes in, we review it, people vote on it, and you have a level of comfort with it.
I think, you're right. I mean, at the end of the day, who knows, someday down the road, there's an exception that we all feel is appropriate, but I think we need to be careful not to say, John Doe can, and, Steve John, such and such can't,
So
we'll leave well enough alone and just understanding that we'll stick with prior practice. Okay, streets and sidewalks.
So I have been looking into this actually a little bit deeper because originally what we had talked about was just alcohol-related closures for people that were going to actually sell alcohol, businesses, for-profit businesses that were going to sell alcohol. But in digging a little bit deeper, the whole thing is kind of wonky. And I think some structure to it would be very reasonable at this point. So right now, as it stands, to close the street, to get a street closure permit, it's $10. So that means the farmer's market pays $10 for the entire season. The green market pays $10 for the entire season. You know, a 3-day, 4-day festival to close off the street pays $10 for all 4 days. So, and I think that's not quite where it should be either. So I put together a proposal for you all to rip apart. But at least it's a starting point for our discussion. And what I propose is multi-layered. First of all, for profit businesses applying to close a street or sidewalk for the purpose of selling alcohol. And let me repeat that. For profit businesses applying to close a street or sidewalk for the purpose of selling alcohol, I propose a fee of around $250. We talked to the city attorney. He felt like that covered our costs. We aren't looking to gouge business by any means. Right now, we have about a half a dozen businesses that apply for these annually or on a regular basis. Nonprofits applying for events, festivals, or parties would be $10 per day for that closure. Residential block parties also just $10 per day. Runs and walks, we as a city come out and drop a significant amount of barriers along the way. It really is much more city labor than your average, little block party where we're closing off a section of the street or whatever. And I'm proposing $25 for that. Street right now, if a neighborhood wants to close off a street so they can do beautification to like the islands and stuff, we're charging them money, which I think is kind of crazy. So I'm proposing that if we're closing a street or a sidewalk for the beautification of the city, that fee is waived. Because it seems to me like when volunteers want to come out and make a city street lovely and we're like charging them, doesn't seem to make any sense. Does that happen often? Yeah. We have island work that gets done in neighborhoods where they close off the street and they do like 3 or 4 islands in a row, and we're charging them for that. I mean, it historically has happened. I'm sure it'll happen again in the future. And then we also have an issue in discrepancy of hours. It's been somewhat left up to whatever the circumstance might be. All events outside of DSIC are restricted to 12 p.m. to 12 a.m. Events within DSIC, and I put the asterisk, but I never finished that. Events within the DSIC district are limited to end at 1 a.m., but both of these should be up for council intervention. Like we had the situation where Bombers was out on the street until 1 a.m. and the people in the hotel right across the street couldn't fall asleep. And that was a major conflict of interest. And then block parties are more limited. They're limited to 4 hours between the hours of 12 and 9 p.m. Because of people not being able to get to their homes and park in front of their homes because their street is blocked off. Right now, none of that is in writing as far as I know, and I think we should solidify that more because right now, again, it's somewhat on a per case basis, which I think is opening us up to we like you, we don't like you, those kinds of things. And the asterisk is because I think if we have a location that has a history of problems when they stay open until midnight or whatever, we need to look at that on case, per case basis. But so this is my proposal for a starting point. Because I really just don't think $10 for an entire season of closing off the street is fair. And I actually sit on the board of the Green Market. And we've had this discussion through the Green Market, and that they pay, for the entire season they pay $10. And, we do have to bag the meters and things of that nature, and I think $10 a week is, a day, for them per week is a reasonable thing to suggest. So have at it.
Okay, I just need some clarification first of all. So the first one, the $250, so that's every time they have an event. It's $250.
Yes.
And then, so when you go on to then you talk about the Green Market, so they're paying $10 for the entire season. So I guess I don't really,
It would be $10 every time they close the streets. Right now, they're paying $10 for the whole season.
that's for,
26 weeks. Or
and they
however
pay $10.
long.
That is a bargain.
So, right, so I'm proposing that we make that $10 for every day.
Okay.
So it would be $260 instead of 10.
Okay, well, because the green market it's just 26 weeks.
Out in City Hall, and then it goes into Proctors.
Okay.
Approximately.
Yeah, I don't know the exact number of weeks, but it's about a half a year.
And starting with the first one was for the for-profit businesses. Most of these businesses are downtown, or are they all downtown?
Nope. There's a business in Bellevue that regularly applies.
It closes the street?
No, they close like a portion of the sidewalk, so they do have to get a permit. There's one just outside of downtown, the other 3 are in downtown. There's about a half a dozen right now that are...
And my concern with that is that it's like a business who's bringing in business to the city, and so I don't know that we want to start tacking on more fees to something that's bringing business into the city. So that's my concern there. And all the other ones, no major thoughts on that, except the one with the block parties, though, because we did have a little bit of feedback when they were talking about the block parties, and some people who did block parties thought that 4 hours was not enough time, because by the time they set up and then break down. So, and one of the things about block parties is you can't block off major arteries of the city. Like, you can't, if it's a through street that the police, the ambulance use regularly, you can't block that off anyway.
Block off State Street?
Well, you can
Yes, you
for
can.
summer night. But
I guess there's been a tremendous amount of feedback to the mayor's office and the person that does this permit by elderly people that cannot get to their homes. Because block parties are in residential areas. And so that's how this 4-hour block of time was brought up, as to be fair to everyone, so that Mr. Johnson could get home and park his car in front of his house. And also why they have to be done by 9 o'clock.
Some are more adaptable too, where they will, if you live on the street, even though you're having the party, they will let you go in. There have been a couple of people who called where they want to have it more than 4 hours. The other component of 4 hours is if we have to staff it for public safety or other municipal employees. So our contracts require that we bring them in for 4 hours, so it's the time of the event would correspond to that block of time that we're staffing. And those things we actually charge people for.
do we actually do that for residential block parties, like send police and...
We don't, but if they had an event that for some reason, again, when you make the application for the permit, all departments review it, it was determined that we needed police at an event or fire department or something, then again, we'll tell them that this is going to cost X number of dollars, and they have to pay that amount of money, again, as part of the final approval to get the permit to close the street.
Is reasonable, yes.
And so in terms of what Marion was saying, just in terms of, for-profit businesses, I know that when someone, a restaurant or a bar plans to have a street closing, there's a lot of upfront costs, right? They're renting a tent, they're getting staff, they're buying food, they've got a lot of upfront costs, and then if it rains, advertising, then it's all flushed down the toilet, they lose their whole investment, and the event's a bust. And these events, when they do the large block parties, and several of them do it, I think it's the best thing one of the better things in Schenectady, where you're bringing in not just Schenectady residents, but you're bringing people from Albany and Saratoga County, and so to put a barrier in, $250 if it's a booming night and the weather's great and everything goes off well, $250 is no big deal. But if it pours and it rains and nobody shows up, then that's just one more thing to add to their losses. And so I think it adds risk, which would possibly convince an entity to say, well, it's risk, maybe we won't do it because we might not make it back if it ends up going wrong. And so, my opinion is, in terms of economic development, and we want to encourage more restaurants to do this. We want to encourage more people to say, we want you to advertise on all the radio stations, TV stations, to get people to come to downtown Schenectady or anywhere in Schenectady and come to a tent for a big party and bring your money. It's in our best interest to do that. So I'm 250 again. Is that the number that's going to deter? No, but I think it's almost in the range where we really shouldn't be, even though it costs us a few bucks to drop off the wooden barricades, charging for it is kind of counterintuitive to economic growth. And so that's really the one I'm concerned with. The other ones, I agree, I think it's a good idea, making it per day. The block parties, the runs and walks, I think all these things are hitting on a lot of issues that people have had concerns with. And I think it's always tough at what time you cut off the noise, and it depends on where you are and who you're going to disturb. So I agree with all of it. I just, raising a fee on businesses who are trying to bring people from out of town is the one I struggle with. So.
This again was a starting point. I'm perfectly willing, but I think for $10 to close off major thoroughfares of our city that don't allow our citizens to get through, clearly in a for-profit situation, and certainly we want our restaurants, and I spent 30 years in the industry. Yeah. We want our restaurants and bars to be successful by all means, but I just think $10 in a for-profit situation when you're putting hundreds of people in a tent and clearly, yes, bringing people into the city, but also bringing people in to make money at the expense of our residents' convenience and comfort, I think is worth something.
Have you by any chance had a conversation with anybody at Bombers or at Pinhead Susan's?
I know that Jack McDonald was, not Jack, Dennis McDonald was quoted in the paper and on TV as saying, $10 is ridiculous. We never expected this to last. I hope they don't gouge us, which at the time somebody had thrown $1,000 out there. I think it was just in discussion. You were saying, what covers our costs? Is it $1,000? Is it $200? So of course the $1,000 was picked up right away, which we've never even entertained. But, Dennis basically agreed that $10 is ridiculous, and so.
Mr. Ricky?
But again, as part of the review process, it's the $10 for the application. When it comes in, the application is circulated through all the departments, and part of that review is the departments, if they're going to incur costs, have to put that estimated cost on their review before they sign off on it. So it comes back, and in fact, if we incur additional expenses, we will tell the individual, you've got to pay $100, you've got to pay $500, again, to offset it. There are some of this where, again, we do things during the normal course of business, dropping off the barricades, other things. Again, the $10 is probably a little bit low. Should the application be $20, $25 to cover it? Yes, but again, it's...
That's just the fee to start the ball rolling, and then if you require something else, you're going to add. That's just the starting fee.
For a lot of the races that they have, they will need a police escort to go through that. So it'll be how many hours he's going to have that vehicle. We will tell them it's either straight time or time and a half, whatever we're going to be able to provide the personnel. They're expected to pay that.
Okay. Mr. Riggi?
Yeah, I agree with everything put together. He does a good job with it. Except the stumbling point for me, too, is the $250. I'd feel more comfortable in the $50 to $100 range, I think. Make it symbolic. It's not the same as somebody closing off the street for a block party or something like that. It's not going to cover the cost, and probably $250 doesn't cover the cost to drop off the barricade. So made it a little more, like say 50 to 100, I would feel comfortable with that.
But I also think the mayor was saying that a lot of that is done on regular work time, and so that it's not an actual extra cost. It's just a kind of an extra service, I guess, would be that we're providing. But anyway,
I just think with a for-profit business, there should be something symbolically, a little more money paid to the city.
Yep.
No, $10 seems almost like worth the paper to do it, right?
You want to go, how do people feel?
50,
about 100? 50, 100?
How about we split it at 75?
Oh, negotiations, I like it.
All right, 50.
She caved.
No, I don't really. like, I don't have a strong
75 's
feeling
okay, too.
anyway.
I'm okay with that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I am too.
Okay.
75?
75, yep.
So, just 4 points of clarification. 4 points of clarification. So there are some businesses who put up tents, et cetera, whatever, they're in their parking lots. This raise does not include them. They still start with the $10 to just get the paperwork through?
I don't know. You're going to decide whether you want...
Whoever needs a street closure or a sidewalk closure permit, which is the same permit, right? Street or sidewalk closure permit. Whoever needs to apply for that, if they're a for-profit business selling alcohol outside and wherever, they need to close off a street or a sidewalk, then
So,
yeah.
if it's in a parking lot where it says that doesn't apply, then this doesn't apply.
If they apply, right, if they need a permit, it's going to cost
They're on their own
them.
private property.
Yeah. Give me the example of Pinhead Susan's.
Okay.
They use a Metroplex parking lot
Okay.
for their tent, but to close the street. ADO Burns uses a Metroplex parking lot, but we don't close the street.
Okay. And in the example,
So under what's being discussed here, Pinhead Susan's would pay the fee, ADO Burns would not.
okay, that's what I want clarified. If there's no street closing, even though they're for-profit, selling alcohol, they don't have to pay that fee.
If they don't need this permit, then they don't pay the fee.
Okay?
But again, they make an application for a permit, and we review it in terms of public safety.
Right.
Are we going to have to staff additional emergency personnel, the police or fire, again, the Bureau of Service? Are we going to go in and Carlson has to provide extra dumpsters or other things before the event, after the event, to make sure that the site's cleaned up and maintained?
Okay.
Are we prepared to move this forward, or do we?
I'll move it.
Okay.
Right now, I just want to say I'm a little bit
I have this picture for you.
confused. Okay, let's go back. You have in your packet an ordinance amending 228, Chapter 228 of the code. That says that the fees will be set by resolution. So what my question is, are you passing
The ordinance.
the ordinance, and then you
Then
want a
a separate-
resolution with this fee schedule?
That would be my interpretation.
Sounds good to me.
Okay, I just wanted to...
All right, so first I'll entertain a motion then to approve the ordinance.
So moved.
All right, second? Second, all in favor? Aye. And then a motion to do a resolution with setting the fees.
So moved.
Okay, second?
as outlined.
As outlined here, yes.
Well, no.
Or the fees as amended,
Yeah,
yes.
50 to be amended to
75.
Yep.
Okay.
So have a second. Okay, Ms. Braza moved it.
I'll second it.
Okay.
75, yeah.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, very good. Lisa, thank you for the work you did on this. Great.
The agenda is going to be so lonely without it.
Yes, right. All right, if there's nothing else to come before City Development and Planning, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Wait, so one retreat,
Oh, that's right. Oops. I'm probably looking at the wrong, my older agenda. I'm sorry. The Re-Tree Schenectady
this
grant.
is a grant application. The retreat Schenectady is putting in for $50,000. This will allow for tree maintenance so that they will can work to preserve trees. Unfortunately, a lot of stuff now, the trees go, the only thing we're doing is cutting them down. This will allow a more balanced approach to it. So looking, this is somewhat time sensitive if this resolution passed, so it's part of the application that Re-Tree is submitting to the state.
Happy to move it.
Okay, second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, motion
The
carried.
money that's within the adopted budget for next year will provide them part of the matching funds they need for this grant.
All right, now then, if there's nothing else to come before City Development and Planning, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Okay, second, all in favor?
Aye. Call to order government operations. The first is just a ceremonial resolution. I don't know if you're familiar or not, but the old Camillo's Lounge on State Street. It's been reopened by a family member, I believe it's a daughter, She's completely redone the inside into a very beautiful restaurant. And that corridor is really experiencing some nice rebirth right now. We have the taco place, the first taco place, I forget the name of it, I apologize, but on this coast, it's the west coast, and with the subway, we have, that whole little strip mall is full now Camillo's Lounge.
Coffee shop.
Yep, Hella's Bakery and all that. So, Camillo's is a long-standing business there that's gone through a lot of different transitions, but I think it would be nice if we recognized someone, once again, investing in our community. So, just bringing that to the table.
You know the address?
Camillo's Lounge, State Street, Schenectady. No, I don't. It's right in between Doug's Tailgate Tavern and... Yeah.
People know the address.
Yeah, well, we'll let them know in the rest of it. But no, it's right across from, Fair Avenue Enterprise.
Yeah.
Family Dollar. So, I'll entertain a motion. I think it's
Denise is the other
Denise
person.
is the other, so I second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. My other ceremonial resolution is the Soroptomists, a group of women who do a lot for our community, those unsung heroes that kind of quietly go under the radar and help people out and really empower people to help themselves, which I think is a very valuable thing. So it's just a recognition of their work in the community.
I'll move that.
I will second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Excellent. Mr. Mayor, floodplain management?
Today's my name gets attached to this. This is just the,
We had the public hearing.
right, to adopt that. There's really not a lot of discretion at the local level. These are the new floodplain maps. We're on a deadline for sometime early January. We have to have this in place, or the city would be disqualified from the federal flood insurance program. So at this point, the council will act affirmatively and move it forward.
Just so you know, Carl Palatico put the language together, sent it to the state. There were one or two minor changes that they wanted. They sent it back, and that's incorporated into what's in your package. And as was stated, it was a public hearing last week, and nobody spoke. So
Wasn't controversial as I thought it would be. I'll move.
I'll second. All those in favor? Aye. Any other business to come before government operations? Not, ask for a motion.
So moved.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, call to order health and recreation, award concession contract for the golf course. Mr. Wallace.
Good evening. The concession contract currently at the municipal golf course expires December 31st this year. As a result, an RFP was put out on BidNet and in the paper for the services of an operator for the concessions. We received 2 replies, which were, I believe, emailed to you on Friday afternoon, and we made a decision. The committee was assembled of 3 people.
Who was on the committee?
The committee was myself, Angelo, the last name Menegias, and Bill Winkler.
Carl, it's in your packet.
That's right. It's in the packet.
Oh, okay.
Everyone has one, too.
Okay.
Deborah Lamoff and Tim Trier are here tonight.
That's it right there. Okay.
So after it was extremely close, some separated by only a point or 2 points the whole way. The recommendation was to continue our contract with June, or enter a new contract with Ms. June Polterak.
So you've given us below the selection criteria. This is what this was based on, and based on this decision was made.
I'm sorry. In reading through this quickly, there seems to be a considerable discrepancy in the amount of rent between the two contracts. Why would that be overlooked in the... Do you know what I mean? Like, am I missing something?
No, if you go through the scores, which I handed out before this meeting, it wasn't overlooked. That was criteria number 3. On most, it was 6 points on Angelo, 5 points on mine, 3 points on Bill. However, as a non-bid, a proposal, the cost is just part of it. That's why we set up the criterion with a committee. If this was a bid, it would go to the lowest, but as it's a service, we do it differently with a request for proposal.
It just seemed to me when I was reading the proposals that, first of all, Ms. LaMalfa and Mr. Trier are both excellent business owners in the city of Schenectady, run spotless establishments with no real problems, have great food and service. So I don't think that there's any denying the fact that they do an excellent job. But it seemed to me that their proposal was more robust in the upgrades that they were proposing to the clubhouse, as well as the revenue they were willing to give back to the cities. So, I mean, I know that we've also received some support documentation from the current concessionaire, and people were very happy with that. But, I mean, a business is a business is a business, too, right? I mean, we have 2 very reputable business people within the city that are offering to not only upgrade the physical plant, but also pay the city additional revenue. So, to me, I'm confused with the scoring.
The one thing that you mentioned, however, was the physical upgrades to the facility. Those were not requested. Previous proposals did have requests to improve the physical facilities. However, we wanted to take that out to kind of level the field, just because we thought that would bring in a variable that would be something that would be hard to judge. So we wanted to keep it to service, menu, cost, because we've had some issues with that, I think, in the last proposal. So there was no call, there was no judging criteria for improvements to the clubhouse. That's why it was kind of, it was presented, it was there. However, we kind of were just, hold that to the side. Some of the things that were proposed were the tables, the tables and chairs, things like that would have been needed because Ms. Polterak had already had to purchase those. So this was to bring the course to the condition it was. I advise everyone that, to take that with a grain of salt, because yes, if they get new, it's going to look better than possibly old, or we can ship it. We were trying to keep it on a level playing field in that regard.
Well, from someone who worked in the business for 30 years, and especially for someone as aggressive in business as Mr. Mazzone, I can tell you that that, to me, is very much key when you're going in as a business person with a proposal. That, to me, indicates that these people are walking into the building and saying, okay, this is nice, but this doesn't reflect the type and the level of business that we want to do. And to do that business, we're willing to invest this much because we want it to look that much better. So I would expect the same for Mrs. Polterak. You know what I mean? Like, it's and nothing against the concession that is in place right now, but to me, the proposals, between the 2 proposals, she was very comfortable with kind of where things were and what they had invested. We have 2 other business people that come in and say, okay, this is great, but it doesn't reflect how we want to do business. And I think that's really important, especially as we try to upgrade the facilities, make the course better, right? Get a new golf pro, reinvest within the golf course, and really try to bring things up a level. So I don't know, I feel like Mr. Biggie right now with the body shop, but this is my bailiwick. This is what I did for 30 years. And to me, when I look at these 2 proposals, you have young, hungry, very reputable business people that want to come in and make a difference, and I believe that both of them could. And that has nothing to do with the fact that I really like the wedge salad at Exchange. an unbiased, just professional opinion.
Yeah, I was actually, there was one person that broke it down really, really well, and which is extremely helpful as to why they, felt one was better than the other, and I think that was wrong in terms of the recommendation. And the other part of this, for me, in looking over this, was I didn't feel that it's like people weren't consistent in how they evaluated. I mean, it was the one I get a little paragraph here, and then one like really breaks it down. Here's why I gave this point, which is how I'm used to seeing when proposals are evaluated. And then the one that broke it down actually gave high points to, I can't, Mr. Trier, am I saying that? Trier. And Ms. Lamont. And then the other one is just like based on this many years of doing it, boom, here it is. So I agree with a lot of what Ms. Perazzo has said in terms of there's looking at they want to do something different, they want to improve it, and as opposed to we're just going to, we're comfortable here, we've done it here.
One of the issues, and I don't want to get too in depth with everything, that the improvements was removed was because, and Bill, if you can step in if you remember this before it was my time, the last proposal Ms. Polterak did propose and has a architect rendering that she did have, and I have seen it, a deck at the golf course. And she wanted to do a deck because the only deck that was there, we enclosed. So now the deck is an interior area. She would like an exterior area so that golfers could hang out on a deck. And she had an architect put it together, and it was a nice sketch. However, the logistics of going from that sketch to actually installing of the deck, given the city and the golf course committee and a lot of different factors that I'm not aware of, led to that stall. And we still talk about this, and we still pass this sketch around, and we still talk about improvements. However, it never came to fruition, and I don't know the exact reasons why, but we still talk about it from the committees. And so that was the reason that Bill and I, who were both, I'm not on the committee, however, I participate, Bill is a member of the committee. We wanted to take that portion of it out and leave in the portion of it of capital improvements to try to make, smaller improvements as we go. It's not that they're not appreciated, it was just that I thought it would be something that would be tough to evaluate because the implementation is just not as simple as putting it on paper. And that was the logic behind that.
Yes. Oh, it's my committee. I'm going to raise my hand.
You're raising your hand. You have to play something.
Well, I'll let you ask your question first then.
So, criteria number 2, this is prior restaurant food service management experience with the proposer or proposed operator manager, including applicable operation of a licensed establishment under New York State Liquor Authority. And so, when I look at the scores, the individuals who own Clinton's Ditch and Manhattan Exchange, I mean, some of these have a significantly lower score than the person who's running this. I mean, do we understand why I would think if you ran 2 current successful businesses, you'd have a higher score than somebody running one business?
The reason that, and I don't want to speak on behalf of the whole committee, but I can speak on behalf of that was, and I hate to say it with Tim and Deb in the room, was we didn't think, even with June here, I would say it to June, that the proposals were very explanatory if you would read them. The reason that we had an issue with it was that while Ms. Trier and Ms. Lamalfa are experienced food service managers, Mr. Trier also owns a grass company. They have the 2 restaurants that are going. However, when you get to their proposal and it states who would be running the golf course, who is running the operation that we're entering in a contract, it was there will be a full-time food service manager. And so we had an issue, a lot of people looked at that, and that was one of the comments in Angelo's of, with the golf course that we have right now, it is a sole proprietorship of Ms. Polterak. We know, even though she does have another full-time position, and she has a full-time manager who is there, who has experience with the golf course. And as she states, it is golf course experience. It is 17 years of operating in and around that facility, in the last 5 years operating that facility. after we met with the committee, that was why everyone kind of skewed towards that, was this is not the operation of a restaurant, this is not the operation of a catering hall, this is a seasonal thing that has lots of quirks to it that is hard to define. So that was why everyone kind of skewed towards the experience being very selective experience.
This was very close, as you can tell by the scores. And this, we provided you with a recommendation, obviously. For me, I don't think that the current owner or the current proprietor of the catering service or the concession is satisfied. She's not floating along with this being status quo type thing. There's no one that I've ever talked to that has a problem with it. Everyone is very satisfied with the quality of food, the quantity of food, the atmosphere that's been created up there. For me, that was the difference in the two proposals. I have a known, I've been going up there for 25 years, and she's been up there and around it for 17 years. I know what she brings. I have no doubt that the other folks here are great people as far as food services, but I have a known quantity up at the golf course in the person that's there now and the people that she brings with her. So to me, as you can tell by the scores, it's very close. But that's where I came from.
Ms. Barrasso.
And I respect that, but I look at it as a business, and if Angelo Mazzone was applying to run the golf course, you wouldn't question the fact that he listed that he would have a full-time manager there, you know? Sodexo was just in, and I hate to use only Angelo, but it's what I'm most familiar with. I could probably dredge something else up out of my memory. Sodexo was at the Empire State Plaza for 16 years, but when it came down to dollar and cents, when the contract was up, that counts. Now, if this was two people that we had no familiarity with, that had a resume, you know, that we were looking at, I could understand that. But in this, and I'm not trying to play favorites one way or another. I'm just looking at pure dollars and business reputation. And I think that there's a very level playing field. I mean, you talk about the quirks of a golf course. Well, these are seasoned hospitality professionals, and you get over quirks of any business really quickly when this is what you do for your living and your bread and butter and how you make your money. And that your reputation is based on it. And, you know, I think that's something to look at, too. These are two people who have a very pronounced reputation in our community, and they certainly do not want to hurt that reputation, because that goes back to their original livelihood and bread and butter, which, you know, is Clinton Stitch and Manhattan Exchange too. So I don't know, when I step away from it and look at it strictly as a business proposal, the numbers speak strongly to me the other way. Not trying to discount the committee's work either, just happens to be my passion.
Yeah, and the fact that they offered, you know, significantly more per year in the rental fee, I mean, that, which was written right in here, like, really was strong. And it's unusual that we would say, you know, that we're just, you know, going to really take that into consideration. Usually dollars and cents is usually part of what drives our decision. And so, you know, looking at that, I do question that, I have to tell you. Oh, sorry.
I'll be last because I am the bounty man. This is, obviously, we're going to be okay either way here, but I guess sometimes I'm from the school of, if it's not broke, why fix it? And I haven't heard anything bad about what's going on at the golf course. Everybody seems pleased. We received a lot of letters saying how pleased they are. And I do remember years ago, Melosi's ran the concession in Central Park for 1 year, and it didn't work out for them. There was a fine, they had a fine track record and all that, but it just didn't work out. It wasn't for them. So again, and I have to also take into consideration myself, this is what the golf committee is recommending, 2 out of 3. So with that, all that in place, again, hasn't been a problem there. It's going good.
Well, it's not, the golf committee, I believe, met on this or voted on it. It was staff reviewed it, and so it's, again...
These 3 people are
right.
part of...
They're representatives of the golf committee that were just put together to, again, take the...
What we tried to do is the RFP was put out under the Department of Engineering, but golf as well. And the idea was to get a diverse group. I'm the technical side, Bill is on the golf committee, and the golf committee, which was selected, it has a diverse group of people, and out of that, we thought that the best person to select would be Angelo, as he operates at Blue Ribbon Diner, which is an established restaurant in the city of Schenectady. So that was the reason that he was selected for the committee. So we tried to get someone from to represent. So we had 2 of 3 members on that were a golf committee. But this is a separate, which we call evaluation committee.
Well, anyhow, on that, I guess my feelings are, if it isn't broke, why fix it? I've been hearing nothing but accolades coming out of there. That's what's turning me this way, is that. If there was problems, I've heard problems, and people aren't happy, and people aren't this and that, then maybe, I don't know. I know we sold the house on Campbell Avenue to somebody that bid a little less, and they're doing a terrific job there, I have to say. We made the right choice there, that I know, from what I've seen, so it's my feelings.
More discussion? Well, I mean, obviously, we don't want to, override or veto what your committee has done, but in the future, when we have these kind of things, to me, it makes sense that everyone has to, be very specific in what and how they're grading, because people chose different ways to go about coming to their findings. And so I'm not sure what the actual proposal looked like or what your grading system was saying, you have to I don't know what the instructions were. So I think that would have been helpful. And again, I also think that the money usually plays a huge part, and I'm just really not understanding why it didn't here. Yes.
So, I think it was a close outcome, right? So I think everyone's going to have a slightly different opinion. We would all rate these, somebody might think the dollars are more important, somebody else might think the experience is more important, somebody else might think the financial stability, and how do you evaluate financial stability might be different. My thought is while both of these options would probably do a fine job, the current person is doing a fine job, I think the new group that's being considered is running exceptional establishments in the city that are highly popular and highly traveled. So my thought is, you've got more revenue that can be used to fund the golf committee and the part of the golf course and everything. And you got people that are now have the possibility of drawing more participants to this establishment. And so maybe I would just go there for a date night and just for dinner, as opposed to, well, I'm only going to eat there after I play golf. And so by bringing more people in, now it brings more people to say, hey, look what I can do in Schenectady. And if I live in the city, look at the great deal I can get on golf. So I think it's all part of the marketing strategy in terms of our city. And I don't believe in the good is good enough. You got to strive for one better every time. So I think that Timothy and Deborah, their existing businesses they run are exceptional. I mean, people come to Schenectady to go to those establishments. They draw people from outside in, and if they can replicate that same thing in our golf course, then that's what we should probably be considering. So that's my opinion.
But the question, So, I mean, I don't know if we've ever been here before. There's been a recommendation before, is that we actually have to go back on and...
Sometimes we follow the recommendation.
It is just that, it's a recommendation, staff makes a recommendation, the council makes a decision on this. So, again, there are two vendors, can both have significant strengths, following, and I'm going to be able to work with whatever the council decides.
I agree with Mr. Erickson, and you know, I think, again, I look at it as a business, and people do make these Schenectady businesses a destination. And to be honest with you, I might consider going to the golf course in this case. You know, if you step back from it and you really look at it as a business, and two business proposals, I think that needs to be taken into consideration. And I feel like, yes, the recommendations were close, but I also agree with Mr. Erickson on number 2. A 10-point difference between someone who's been in the restaurant business, or one of these people has been in the restaurant business, basically cut her teeth on the restaurant business, and Mr. Trier has certainly established himself over a number of years in the city, and I don't know how you can't look at a more lucrative proposal with the reputations attached and not be thrilled that we got it. So I plan on supporting Mr. Trier and Ms. Lamalfa.
This is a close one. I agree with Mr. Ricky and Mr. Winkler, so even though I think they would do a fabulous job too, so.
What was it, in terms of the committee, I was, you know, since we're at this place where I don't remember us ever having that before, considering having both them come in and actually do a presentation for us, both the people who we're considering.
I mean, we could probably do that. I think at this point, much is my opinion. Everyone here probably has an opinion. If you're not decided yet, maybe you want to call each of them individually and chat with them. And you can go that route if you're not sure. But or we call Denise and see what she thinks.
Well,
one or the other.
Kind of our recommendation.
Well, yeah. But we
yeah, I read the one that came through on our email.
Both proposals and the RFP were emailed out Friday.
Yeah. So for me, it seems pretty clear cut.
So the recommendation that's come before us is to award. It's based on the recommendation of the committee, where you're 2 out of 3 voted for the current.
Ms. Polter, the current, I don't want to use the term vendor, but the current concessionaire.
So that's what's being proposed before the committee. Whether we're going to move on that.
Oh, you're going to move?
No.
Oh,
yeah, that's what's being proposed to us tonight?
Right, but right now, I think you got to decide which one, right? So you got 2 people on one, 2 people on another, and we can either wait until Denise gets back, or you can say, let's move on A or B, and then put forward, right? Make a motion or ask for a motion, and if you want me to make a motion, I'll do it.
Okay, let me just be clear. The motion, what's come before us now is yes or no, up or down on the one they have recommended.
They're just giving us data, and then it's up to us to make a recommendation, or it's up to us to pass a resolution on one or the other.
Okay, you're not making, you're just giving us the scores, you're not making recommendations?
This is our,
It's a recommendation.
This is our recommendation, however, this is a recommendation, John, you can do this is a recommendation to the committee that is for your information. Right. I do not, that's what I believe this is.
But
yeah, we can decide what we want.
For the council.
Yeah. Okay.
You can ultimately pass a resolution going with option number 2.
You can appoint me to run the golf.
You can do A, B, or pick C, right? I mean, but I don't know.
Okay.
So, being on the committee,
okay.
If you're looking for motion, I will move that we accept Timothy Trier and Deborah Lamalfa. That's my opinion. I'll move that.
Okay.
Who else is on? You, and Mr. Riggi.
Mr. Riggi.
Oh, so you, basically, you either have to second mine, or he'll make a motion to the other one, you're going to second that.
Mr. Riggi?
There's nothing to say. I already had what I had to say.
You have to say.
So he's not going to second it, he can't.
Okay, I'll second that.
All right. All in favor? Or no, you're
Oh, all in
taking over.
It happens.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed?
Nay.
Okay, is there anything else to come before health and recreation?
Yes, just one quick thing. Under
Okay.
health.
Under
I got a
health.
call today, some people in the area of Bowlingers. They're concerned that is vermin going to be removed from that building before it's raised? Because they said that happened with Robinson's and they had a problem with what kind of vermin moving into other structures. So I don't know if you're aware of that or not, or if you have an answer.
People squatting in the building across the street are going to be unhappy.
There's nobody squatting across the street.
Yeah, somebody else's business is fairly street, not right across the
Yeah,
street.
I don't know, Metro Park is actually going to handle that, but we could look into. Yes, but you got to tell me who's concerned until we, is it next door across the street?
No, seven, Ferrari Street.
Okay.
She called. We'll talk to her. Get four horses, as they say. Okay, that's all.
That's, okay, well, was that just for the mayor? Because we didn't hear it. All right.
No, well, I thought I said about the...
Whether vermin was going to be...
Yeah, vermin
Okay.
being moved.
And the answer is?
I don't know, but I'll look into it.
Okay.
See what we can
Just
do.
want to make sure.
Call Pied Piper.
I move we adjourn.
Just make sure everyone in public
Second.
knows what's going to happen. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we're
To
adjourned.
order claims. Motion to go executive
So
session.
moved.
I'll second all in favor.
Aye.
This has machine.